Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wicked Encounters, where we explore just what goes bump in the night. I'm your host, Allie, and it's every horror fan's favorite time of year, October! In celebration of the spookiest month, I've compiled a list of horror movies that I think are worth sharing with you guys, and I'm calling it the 31 Days of Wicked Horror. We're on the 24th day of October now, but in case it's your first time checking in, I'll let you know how I've selected these movies that I believe are worthy enough for you to watch. First off, I've fallen a little bit behind, but don't worry, I have a plan on doing a mass upload so that we are completely all caught up again. Don't worry, you will get all 31 movies, I promise. So back to the rules, and back to the script that those of you who have been watching the previous videos are familiar with. First off, none of the movies are going to be older than 20 years, so we can add some newer videos to our must-watch lists instead of continuing to repeat the same ones from 50 years ago. The Crazies is a good 50-plus-year-old movie, not gonna lie, but, we've got more that have come out, and it's been rebooted 5 times? Secondly, I'll be providing the synopsis and plot of the movies for those who may not like surprises or just want to listen to know what the movies are about. There will be a slide letting you know when we're coming up on it, and I'll let you know where it's safe to click on to avoid spoilers. Also, while many of the movies are streamable, I'm not going to really provide the info on where you can watch them because it varies based on where you live, and streaming services love removing and adding movies like there's no tomorrow, even when the holiday's not over yet. Please, stop. Finally, I'm going to give you some reasons as to why the movie stands out and why I think you'll like it. So, 24 on our list is, and yes, I know what I said 24 back in the, It movie. Don't think I didn't notice. The real 24 on our list is Antlers. Antlers is a 2021 supernatural horror film directed and co-written by Scott Cooper and produced by TSG Entertainment, Phantom 4 Films, and Double Dare You. The film follows a school teacher who suspects one of her students is suffering from personal problems in his home life, not knowing that he's harboring an evil demon in his home. I'm going to go more in depth and go over the plot of the movie now. So if you'd like to skip, you'll know where to skip to in 3, 2, 1. Set in a small, economically depressed town in rural Oregon, the story begins with Frank Weaver, a local meth dealer, and his young son, Aiden, conducting illegal activities in an abandoned mine. While inside the mine, Frank encounters a mysterious creature, which attacks him and Aiden. The film then shifts its focus to Frank's older son, Lucas Weaver, who is shown living in squalor, struggling to take care of both his ailing father and young brother Aiden. It quickly becomes evident that something is terribly wrong in the Weaver household. Lucas is a quiet and withdrawn boy, often bullied at school and living in isolation. He is shown foraging for small animals, which he brings home to feed the creature that has taken over his father and brother. The creature, once human, is now transforming into something monstrous. Driven by an insatiable hunger, Lucas is burdened with the impossible task of trying to keep them alive, while also containing their growing bloodlust. Julia Meadows, Lucas's middle school teacher, becomes concerned about his well-being. Julia is a woman with her own troubled past, having returned to her hometown after the death of her abusive father. She lives with her brother Paul, who is the local sheriff. Julia notices that Lucas is malnourished, wears the same clothes every day, and is exhibiting signs of abuse or neglect. Determined to help him, Julia begins to investigate his situation. As she delves deeper, she discovers that Lucas's father Frank has been missing for several weeks now, and no one has seen Aiden either. Lucas's disturbing drawings, which depict monstrous creatures and bloody scenes, leads her to believe that something horrific is happening in his home. Julia's concern for Lucas grows as she learns more about the mysterious circumstances surrounding the Weaver home. Meanwhile, Frank's transformation into a Wendigo, a creature from Algonquin folklore that represents insatiable hunger and cannibalism, continues. The Wendigo is a malevolent spirit that possesses humans and drives them to commit acts of cannibalism. In this case, the creature has taken over Frank and Aiden, turning them into savage, flesh-eating monsters. As their hunger grows, they become increasingly dangerous, breaking out of their confinement and preying on the local wildlife, and eventually, the townspeople. Julia seeks the help of Warren Stokes, a retired schoolteacher and a local Native American man who is knowledgeable about the Wendigo legend. He explains the origins of the creature and warns Julia that the only way to stop the Wendigo is to kill it by destroying its heart, which lies deep within its host. Warren's warning underscores the severity of the threat and the difficult task ahead for Julia and Paul. The situation escalates when the Wendigo begins attacking people in the town, leaving a trail of mutilated bodies. As the deaths mount, Paul is forced to confront the reality of what they are dealing with. Julia, Paul, and Warren work together to track down the creature and put an end to the horror that has overtaken the Weaver family. In a climactic confrontation, Julia and Paul discover the true horror of what was inside the Weaver home. In the mine, they find the fully transformed Wendigo, a terrifying creature with antlers protruding from its body, even though that's not really what Wendigos look like, but and engage in a brutal fight for survival. Julia ultimately kills the creature by stabbing it in the heart, freeing Frank and Aiden from their monstrous forms. But the tragedy does not end there. The film concludes on a bleak note, as it is revealed that the curse of the Wendigo has not entirely vanquished. The final scene hints at the possibility of the curse being passed on, leaving the door open for continued horror. Julia and Paul are left to grapple with the trauma of what they've experienced, as well as the realization that the evil they fought may never truly be defeated. And with that, the film ends. Hey guys! To those who stayed, I hope you enjoyed what you heard enough to give it a watch. And for those who skipped, if you like cryptids, which if you're on this channel, I'm sure you do, you're going to love it! But I bet you're wondering why it made it onto the list. What makes Antler stand out? Well, for one, it's a great, good, grand, cryptid creature feature. Antlers distinguishes itself by drawing heavily on Native American folklore, specifically the legend of the Wendigo. The film uses this myth as a foundation for its horror, exploring themes of insatiable hunger, lost humanity, and the consequences of greed and exploitation. The folkloric elements add depth and cultural significance to the narrative, setting it apart from more conventional horror films. Atmospheric and visual storytelling. The film is visually striking, with a focus on creating a bleak, oppressive atmosphere that reflects the despair of the town and the characters. The cinematography emphasizes the desolation of the rural setting, using muted colors and stark, haunting imagery. The decaying landscape and the darkness of the mine contribute to the film's overall sense of dread. Emotional and psychological depth. Antlers is not just a creature feature. It delves into the emotional and psychological trauma of its characters. Julia's personal history parallels the horrors faced by Lucas, adding layers to their relationship and to the film's exploration of trauma and survival. The film addresses the impact of trauma on individuals and families, making the horror more resonant and grounded. Creature design and practical effects. The design of the Wendigo is both terrifying and memorable, even if it's not really what a Wendigo looks like. Yes, we know, you can sit down now. Combined with the use of practical effects and CGI, it created a character that feels real and tangible, enhancing the horror. The film's commitment to practical effects over heavy reliance on CGI gives the Wendigo a more visceral presence. Themes of environmental and societal decay. Antlers subtly weaves in themes of environmental destruction and societal decay, reflecting the toll of economic hardship on the town and its inhabitants. The abandoned mines, once a source of livelihood, now serves as a breeding ground for the Wendigo, symbolizing the consequences of exploitation and neglect. This thematic depth also adds a layer of social commentary to the film. Exploration of parental relationships. The film explores the complexities of parental relationships, particularly through the lens of Julia's troubled past and her attempt to protect Lucas. The contrast between Julia's desire to save Lucas and Frank's transformation into a monster underscores the film's theme of family, protection, and the loss of humanity. Slow burn tension. Antlers builds tension gradually, using a slow burn approach that allows the horror to unfold organically. The film doesn't rush to reveal the creature, instead focusing on the characters and the escalating sense of dread. This pacing enhances the impact of the horror when it does fully emerge, making the terror so much more effective. Antlers stands out in the horror genre for its blend of folklore, psychological depth, and atmospheric tension. It's a film that combines creature horror with a poignant exploration of trauma, making it a unique and haunting experience. And that's all that I have on Antlers. I only have 7 more movies that I'll be sharing with you. What do you think they could be? How do you feel about Antlers being on the list, and would it make it onto yours? How do you like cryptid movies? Personally, I think this is one of the better ones out there because most of them just seem to tack on a little too much cheese. But let me know in the comments. I'd love to discuss horror more in depth with you all, so feel free to join the Wicked Encounters Discord group. If you want to support me in other ways, maybe check out my Patreon. Speaking of, I'd like to give a great big thank you to my patrons, Nakala and Beefalump. You guys are just the bee's knees. Well, that's all I've got time for today. So remember, I'm Allie, this is Wicked Encounters, and I'll see you next time. Bye!